Hey everyone, Forrest here with Rocky Mountain School of Photography, and today I want to take a look at this. This is the FeiyuTech AK2000S gimbal. It's actually FeiyuTech's newest gimbal. It was released about mid-December, and it's super awesome. FeiyuTech actually reached out to me to see whether I'd be interested in doing a review, and immediately I jumped on it because the FeiyuTech AK2000 is actually a direct market competitor to our main workhorse gimbal, which is the Ronin SC. So for a few months now, we've been using the Ronin SC with a Fuji X-T30 as our main go-to B-roll gimbal rig. In fact, if you've seen really any B-roll on any of our other videos, it was shot with this guy. Been super great performer, but I was really excited to see what FeiyuTech had come out with because they have some really interesting products. So a quick comparison between the two just to kind of set that straight. I want to make this review mostly about the FeiyuTech, but I'm going to draw some interesting parallels to the Ronin as we go along. The first thing is price. So the base model of both of these gimbals runs about $350 to $400. The FeiyuTech's about $350 and the Ronin SC is about $400. Now, both companies offer a nicer version, or the Pro combo or whatever they call it, that adds things like a focus motor and a little rail to hold it to the gimbal kit. And so that brings the price up a little bit, but base model we're looking at $350 and $400. Now, that also brings me to payload capacity, which obviously is a huge issue for a gimbal. If you are buying a gimbal, you want to make sure you're buying a gimbal that can handle the load of your camera and lens setup. The max payload of the Ronin SC is about 4.3 pounds, just under 4.5 pounds, whereas of the FeiyuTech, it is just under 5 pounds. It's about 4.8. I rigged the FeiyuTech up with a nice 6D Mark II and a 17-40, trying to mimic the more budget option setup. These are going to be more budget gimbals aimed at entry-level videographers, but that doesn't mean they're slacking. It just means that they have lighter payload capacity. And I feel like the 6D Mark II and 17-40 is a good pro budget starter setup. So that's the comparison between the two. You might have noticed that the FeiyuTech has a higher weight capacity and also a lower price. So already the FeiyuTech is coming out ahead. Now let's talk just the FeiyuTech for a little bit. Hey, the FeiyuTech has a lot of things that I really like about it. The main thing that kind of stands out first is this handle. This handle is amazing. I've never used a gimbal with a handle like this, and truly, it was like a breath of fresh air. Getting low angle stuff where you come in low on your subject, and let me just move this Ronin out of the way real quick. Hey, there we go. Getting low with a gimbal, if I go ahead and unlock this axis, is usually very difficult. You usually look super awkward because you're like, you got this big long extension here and you're trying to like pivot arm it, and it's not a very clean thing to do. It's not very fun. Well, the FeiyuTech said, hey, guess what? Let's put a handle on this thing so that you can just grab it like this, and getting those low angle shots becomes super comfortable, super easy. I love the handle. To make matters even better, the handle has a cutout on it for an Allen wrench that is needed to install the handle, as well as there's a little screw thread bit right here that we can take off, and that holds the various hardware that you need to mount it. So it's real easy to take on and off simply because it's all contained inside of itself. So that's super cool. Hey, a couple other things I like is that immediately the build quality of the FeiyuTech feels better than the DJI unit. So the DJI Ronin SC is plastic and a little bit aluminum. It's kind of a composite material. It doesn't feel great. The FeiyuTech is all aluminum with these nice wooden handles. It just feels really professional. It feels really good. It feels high end, which at a lower price point was surprising to me. Also, the FeiyuTech has a screen on it, and that screen allows us to set certain things, certain modes of operation. It has a cool mode called Inception mode, where it rotates around very slowly or quickly depending on how fast you set it. It has a knob, it has some buttons. It just feels good. There's a lot of really good build components to it. So I really appreciate that. It's also super easy to balance with the inclusion of locks. Now, one quick note on the locks. Locks are something that I really value having in a gimbal because they make it extremely easy to balance everything and also to walk with it so your camera's not like shaking all over the place. The problem is the locks on the FeiyuTech are not as easy to use as the locks on the Ronin. I've gotten super used to Ronin locks. They're amazing, they're easy. Those locks on the SC are great. The FeiyuTech ones are just not as good. They don't feel as good, they're hard to actuate. Specifically, this one in the center right here is really hard to flip up and down. It just doesn't do it very smoothly. And honestly, I usually just leave the center unlocked simply because it's a pain in the butt to lock it. So build quality is great, but the locks in particular are a little bit of a pain to use. Now, another big plus of the FeiyuTech is the inclusion of cables. They give you this little bag with literally a ton of cables in it. Like if I just dump these out, there's a cable for almost every camera that you would possibly need. USB-C, micro, mini, all the different types of connections you've got here included for free, which is super awesome. I don't know why more companies don't do that. I really appreciated that coming right out of the box. Hey, another thing that I really like about the FeiyuTech is the inclusion of 2 USB ports on the front of the unit that are used for both a focus motor and a zoom motor. You can use both with this gimbal, and I think that's super powerful. Now, it doesn't include them in the base kit. I was talking earlier about the different kits. The focus motor and zoom motor are not included, but if you did buy those, you're able to connect both motors to the gimbal to give you both zooming and focus control, which I think is really powerful. Hey, now I want to talk about a few of the things that bugged me about this. The first and foremost was the app. I installed the app expecting it to be great and let me kind of configure all of my settings for the gimbal and get it all set correctly, and I was really disappointed. Unfortunately, the app, at least on iOS, and I didn't check the Android version, but it's not very user-friendly. It's not very intuitive, and there's a lot of buttons that have no explanation to what they do until you tap them and you see what happens. And that's just a little bit frustrating. This gimbal in general has a little bit of a jankiness to it. So it's built super well. Like the build quality is better than the Ronin by a long shot, but the polish level, like the level, that little extra 5% in user friendliness and in smoothness isn't quite there. And that's carried over to the app as well as the screen interface. Like this has a screen on it and you're able to change settings there, but it's not that user friendly. I feel like they just skimped a little bit when it came to development of the software, the onboard software, as well as the app. Hey, that jankiness is also continued in the initial settings of the gimbal. With the Ronin SC, I was able to take it out of the box, turn it on, and immediately start getting very smooth footage right out of the box. There was no need to do anything. I don't think I even really installed the app because I didn't need to, which was super awesome. The FeiyuTech, on the other hand, took a little bit of customization. And what I mean by that, specifically the panning and rolling speed and tilting speed was set to like the insanity level right out of the box, to the fact that if you use the little thumb controller to control it, you were like, it was like Star Wars. It was like, it was all over the place, very hard to get anything smooth. Now, I know it's an analog stick and you can just push it a little bit to control it small, but sometimes you want to just go a little further and you want a little bit more fine control to it. So you can easily go into the menu, you can set it, you can change all that, or you can use the app. It's easily fixable. But my one gripe is that out of the box, the performance of the FeiyuTech is not quite to the level of the performance of the Ronin. Hey, going along the trend of little small tweaks and jankiness, the buttons are not quite tactile enough for me to really like them. They're hard to know whether you pushed them. They're hard to know whether you activated it. And a few times I've actually pushed the button and thought, oh, it's changed, and it wasn't actually switched over. Hey, now with all this said, we got to take a minute and think about what a gimbal review actually should be about. And that is, can it gimbal? I think a lot of us take for granted, like, oh yeah, it's a gimbal, of course it's gonna gimbal. But I wanna like set in stone for sure, yes, this gimbal can gimbal. It actually does work very well to stabilize footage at low angles, high angles. The different modes all work great. There's a locking mode, which is super awesome if you are trying to keep that camera locked in a particular direction. It will counter all of your movements regardless of what you're trying to do. There's also pan mode, there's tilt mode, there's all these different modes. It gimbals very nicely. Now, I will say, going along to the same trend that I said earlier, It did take a little bit of customization to get it to that point where it was getting smooth footage, specifically with smooth pans, smooth tilts, and smooth rolls. There are also a lot of cool features packed into this thing by using that screen. There's a time-lapse mode where it can move from a preset position to another preset position while triggering your camera throughout. That's very powerful. Inception mode is obviously very cool. That's where it does the rotation. It gimbals very nicely. So I was even able to run at a pretty quick pace and walk pretty quickly, even without trying to counter any sort of Z-axis movement by walking like a ninja. It still was able to capture really nice footage. So I have no doubt that this thing can gimbal. It's more down to the fact of the slight jankiness throughout the system. Hey, so here's how I would conclude. For $350, I think this is an amazing buy. If this had been available when I was between this or the Ronin SC, I probably would have gone with the FeiyuTech. I think it has a lot of features packed into it that really make it worth it. Particularly this handle is super awesome. And I know there's aftermarket handles for the Ronin SC, I'm aware of that, but having it included is great. Also, the different modes of operation and just the general build quality, it feels awesome. Here's my one disclaimer. If you are one of those people who wants to open the box, take out the gimbal, turn it on, put your camera on it, and shoot amazing footage, and you don't want to learn about anything else about the gimbal, the DJI Ronin SC is definitely the one to go with. This is going to require you to read the manual, to learn what the buttons do, to learn how to customize it, to get it to work the way that you want it to work. The Ronin SC is a better out-of-box experience. But me as a tinkerer and as someone who does not mind learning how things work, in fact enjoys learning how things work, this guy is super awesome. So I hope you guys like this video. I tried to be as objective as I possibly could be. Obviously, like I said at the beginning, I didn't pay for this unit. It is mine to keep, so thank you to FeiyuTech for doing that. They made a great gimbal. It's really good, and hopefully you took those honest opinions as I gave them, because I did try to be super objective with this review. Hey, if you guys like this video, I would love a thumbs up button. If you like reviews in general, let us know what you want us to review. We have a few coming down the pipeline in the next few months, but if you like reviews, let me know. Let me know what you want to hear about. If you guys want to subscribe to our channel, we have Lightroom tutorials, Photoshop tutorials, camera tutorials, video tutorials, all kinds of things. We do a video every single week, so hit that subscribe button down in the corner. And lastly, special thanks to Canon. They generously let us use these cinema cameras to shoot these videos. Thanks, guys.